everyone, and welcome back to Alma Live. I'm Adriana Monique Alvarez, and I'm so excited to have you today and to welcome today's guest, Melissa Smith. Melissa is the founder and CEO of the Association of Virtual Assistants and the PVA. Hi, Melissa. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you.
Hi, Adriana. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, where are you joining us from today?
Today, I am joining from my home base, which is outside of Athens, Georgia.
Okay, nice. So I would love for you to share in your own words a little bit about who you are and what you're up to in the world.
Sure. So I am the founder and CEO of the Association of Virtual Assistants and the PVA. So my life really revolves a lot around virtual assistants and helping virtual assistants, helping them grow their businesses, helping them become virtual assistants, and then also the clients that we serve, helping people hire the right virtual assistant, knowing what a virtual assistant is, what good looks like, and really facilitating bringing these two people who are looking for one another together, because that's the most common question people have is, where do I find my clients? And, for those who are looking to hire virtual assistants, where do I find one? So really bringing those people together. And then I have been location independent for 3 years. I've been remote for 6. And so remote work consulting is something that people ask me a lot about. So I talk about remote work consulting as well, which is also part of what everyone is doing. And I think everyone's doing things a little bit differently. And so really growing through those challenges as well for those who may be remote for the first time and new to the concept. For people who have been remote for a while, we forget that every day someone is learning something new about being remote and the concept and the idea and the tools, and it can be overwhelming.
It's so true. Even the other day, I was talking to someone, excuse me, and they said, this is the first time I've ever used Zoom. And they couldn't figure out, how do I get to where I can see your face? And where's the chat? How do I record? And, it's those things I just take for granted, because we've been on Zoom like a million times. But it's true when you're forced into a situation to start with, and then you're learning a lot of new things on top of it, it can be very challenging.
Yes.
So, you reached out about this topic of emotional resilience. And then I heard a bit about your story and I was blown away. Yeah. So what I would love for you to do, let's start off first with what your definition of emotional resilience looks like. What are those characteristics to you?
So I think, especially right now when people are super challenged and they think, what is this emotional resilience? What am I supposed to do? And I would say at some point we've all already been emotionally resilient and probably just didn't realize it, or maybe didn't have the words to put to it. But if you've ever gone through something challenging in your life, something that you didn't want to happen, something that you were not super excited about, and you came through it, and you didn't even have to make this new, big, huge life change. I think that's what people think. If you're emotionally resilient, then there must be some big life change. No, you can make yourself, you can get yourself through it, and you can just still retain the person that you are. It doesn't have to be, pick up and you move and you start a new career, you start a new life. And the idea is that you have something that you didn't want to happen, something that you felt happened to you, and yet you came out of it either retained as the great person that you are, or possibly an even better person with a different perspective, a new zest for life, a new love for your current job, a new love for your current things, family, friends, abilities. I suffer from migraines. And earlier this week I was having a migraine and I thought, wow, I'm actually practicing emotional resilience each time I come out of this, because I get so excited to wake up in the morning and not have a migraine anymore, and so thankful. And someone would say, well, why is that emotionally resilient? And it's because I could come out of it and I could just be afraid. I could be afraid of the next one coming. I could be afraid of what this is going to mean 20 years from now. How long will I suffer from this? All these things, instead of just living in the moment and being so thankful that it's over and getting back to doing the things that I love and being so thankful that I took for granted waking up without having my head hurting or going through a day where, my vision wasn't blurred or something. So I think we all practice it and just don't even realize that we're doing it.
It's true. It's that muscle that is strengthened. And we oftentimes, like you said, we don't know it until later on down the road and we realize, oh, I'm better at getting through this or processing it, recognizing it. So I would love for you to share a personal story of when this was a real big thing for you.
So in about 20 years ago now, my father committed suicide. And it was a very, very difficult thing. He was my whole world. He was just a wonderful dad. He was the, epitome of the strong guy. And he was a single dad raising 3 kids. Everyone just thought the world of him, including his 3 children. And when that happened, it was just devastating. It was devastating. And I got through it. I was married. I had small children. I had to get through it if I was going to continue living my life. And there was something about it that made it a little bit easier because I think it's like the natural circle of life. Your parents are supposed to go before you. But there was this thing about how do we tell people? Are we going to tell, my children, my sister's children? Because it's not a socially acceptable way to die all the time. I could tell anyone that my dad would have cancer and people would be very sympathetic, but it's not always the same when you mention the word suicide. Well, about almost 8 years ago now, my husband also committed suicide. And it was this really strange thing to suddenly have this thing in common with my children. And my children were now older, so now I had to tell them the truth that their grandpa didn't die of a heart attack. He committed suicide. So although I don't know what you're going through, I know what it is to have a dad commit suicide. And people would say all the time, how is it possible? How do you do that? And I would say for me, I knew there was nothing I could have done to save my dad. There was nothing I could have done to save my husband. And for me at that point, it was about how do I help my children get through this, help them not be upset or angry or bitter or just leave it all inside, and instead focus on the positive. He drove every day. He raced motorcycles for a time in his life. He was just human. He could have died of many, many things. And we were fortunate enough to have him for the time that he was on this earth. There's, people who suddenly pass away in car accidents and in heart attacks. He would have been better if he had suffered through cancer. The fact of the matter is we're hurting. There's no good way for someone to die. We're never going to be happy with it. We're always going to be sad, but how can we get through this? And so it was just taking it day by day. What am I thankful for today? What can I laugh about today? What can I remember today? And so it was taking those steps. And then probably about a year or 2 later, I was reading books about growth, and I just felt very stagnant. And I feel very fortunate that my kids still really needed me. They were older, but they still needed me. And I thought, I have to really get better. I have to really work on myself, and I have to get better. I had lost a lot of weight. I wasn't able to sleep, and I moved back to my hometown and to be closer to my family. And I just started reading, and I started a book, and I started blogging and I started writing things down and I started dealing with things. And it's a process. It's just a process. But at some point we all have to make a choice. Is this going to be the life that I have? Is this going to be the life that I choose to live? Or am I going to say, it's time to start something new. It's time to, be another version of myself and grow out of that. And so I started doing really what I thought were scary things. I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in. And I'd always been a closet writer, And I remember I started blogging, and it was this anonymous blog as I was going through this book. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to join a meetup group. And I joined this meetup group of writers. And I went there and I was just sweating and my heart was racing, and I had to share my writing with complete strangers. And it was terrifying. And afterwards I went straight over to my sister's house and I said, I did it. And then now I have to laugh because now I write all the time, and now I've written 3 books and I write articles. But if someone would have told me that years ago, I would have thought, oh, you're crazy. That you must be talking about someone else.
You didn't see it. Did you find that writing to be therapeutic for you?
I did, because to see things on paper, right? Like, it's written down, and now it could be a legal document, right? When you see things on paper, when you put things down on paper, and it creates this clarity and something that you can see and something that you can visualize, and it gets out of your head. It just gets out of your head, where things swirl around and often don't make sense. Even if it's a really great idea, as long as it's in your head and not on paper, it doesn't have a way to really finish and take on its own life and start to live and breathe in its own way. It just kind of swirls around, and sometimes it just grows and grows and grows. And then sometimes it just, starts to die off and it starts to diminish. And then you start to think about all the ways that it can't possibly work.
Yeah.
So writing really helped. And it became so, just like anything else, it became this muscle. And when I was traveling the world in 2017, I wrote a daily blog, and people would say, wow, like, your writing has got so much better. Like, I write every single day. When you write every single day, you get better. It's not, you can take as many classes as you want, you can do as much as you want, but writing every single day you'll get better. If you cook every single day, if you clean every single day, and if you put like that focused attention on it, that's what grows. That's
so true. I mean, it's really about doing it, right? Oftentimes we love the theory and to learn and to watch somebody else do it, but it's not really real until we're doing it. So I have to ask you, when you were going through these difficult times, were there specific tools or people, moments that really assisted you?
Absolutely. So if you look up the definition of resilience, it'll say toughness, mental toughness. And my dad and my husband were if people looked at them and had to describe them as in one word, it would be tough. I mean, they were like big guys, they were strong, they had, big muscles, and they were just like a man's man type of person, right? They were both super tough. But the one thing that they both didn't do was allow other people to help them. And you can't be resilient on your own. It's just not possible. And, having a safe space, having a safe environment, having people who you can be real with. I had a lot of outbursts. I had a lot of emotional outbursts. One minute I would be, really happy, and one minute something would happen and I would think of something and I would be sad and I would just be crying. And if I had to hold that back And if I wasn't in a space to be able to share that, if I wasn't in an environment where I could, have a tough conversation with my family and then be able to go back and say, that was having a rough day. Like, I'm sorry for the things that I said, and really have them embrace me and completely and 100% forgive me. And it's one of the reasons why I moved back to my hometown. I knew that I needed to be around people more where I could just be myself. And it's kind of cliche, like in the movies where, someone maybe gets divorced and they move back to their, hometown and that sort of situation. But it was so great to go back to my hometown, and only there. And people call me Missy, nowhere else, and my family. And so to have all these people calling me by this name that no one else knows me by really took me to a time in my life where I wasn't a mom and I didn't have kids, and I just was like super carefree, and I was just free to be me. And it was just creating these environments and surroundings. But the idea that you're going to go through this alone, that you can go through it alone, is false. You are setting yourself up for really hard times. Your burdens are for others to help you share and get through and carry. It's too much of a weight to do it on your own. And the fact is that there are people who would absolutely love to help you carry that load. And that sounds crazy, but it's because they have probably been where you are and have the most compassion for you, and it hurts them to not be able to help you.
I think that is so true. There's no getting through the toughest times alone. And like you said, when somebody has been through it and they can truly feel where you are, they would hate to think that you're trying to sort through it on your own, because they already know what it feels like.
Right. I mean, everyone has their own story. I'm not going to say, like, if you've been through a suicide that, oh, I know exactly how you feel. I would never tell you that. However, you and I now share a bond that someone else can't. And that's okay. We don't want everyone else to experience it. But because I know that there's going to be some things that you and I are going to be able to share that only we can understand. And I want to be there for you through those times. And it was after I started sharing my story that people would come to me and say, I have a friend, or I was working at a school and we had a student, and, how do you deal with this? And, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, but it's going with someone and saying, you don't have to be ashamed. You don't have to hide it. There's nothing wrong with you. There was nothing wrong with your loved one. This is an illness just like anything else. It's just like anything else. And again, if we look at it through the other side, I had a girlfriend and her father passed away after battling cancer for years. And it was devastating. And I had to think, wow, I would never wish suicide on anybody, but wow, I almost feel thankful, because if I had to watch my dad, I don't know if I could be as strong as my friend, right? I don't know if I could be with her. So there's no way that we're going to be happy in all situations. And we're talking about death, but it doesn't have to be. If you're struggling with your job and it's a struggle to wake up every morning and you cry, and on Sunday night you're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't even enjoy my day because I'm dread going to work. You need to get some friends involved. You need to start talking about things. You need to have conversations, because that emotional resilience muscle, you're just wearing it down on your own. It doesn't have to be something as big as death. We all have to do it every day. We're kids, coworkers, spouses, partners. Every day we're finding something new, and that requires a new muscle.
Very true. I love how you say that, because it doesn't matter. I mean, I think right now when people are sort of being forced to look at what's working and maybe not working in their lives, it allows us to also see where we can put up with things or keep going. Like you said, even when it's wearing us down, it's creating all of this dread. You know, if we're dreading tomorrow, if we're dreading the week, if we're dreading the boss, if we're dreading the marriage, if we're dreading whatever it is, right? It's a hard way to live.
Yes.
It's a hard way to live.
It really is.
Now, what would be, you know, your recommendation? Someone who's used to being smart and independent and capable and successful and fill in all the blanks, and they're going through a difficult time. What does it take to actually be willing to ask for help from someone?
It takes courage. You know, this word transparency is thrown around all the time now, right? We want to know what people make. We want to know where they're living. We want to know all these details that we think are really important. And that's supposed to mean that I am super transparent. And those are just, you know, facts. And some of them, they are transparent. But being transparent means that I can tell someone, I'm a leader, I'm a coach, I'm an executive coach, I am a leadership coach, I work in mindset. However, I face my own challenges. So this is how I become a better coach. This is how I become a better leader. And it's about getting that help where I am. You don't reach a place of, oh, I've mastered mindset. Oh, I've mastered coaching. Oh, I've mastered being a mom. I've mastered being a wife. Like, these things just don't happen. It's not true. Yeah. And so it takes courage to say, you know, I'm at the top of my game. How am I going to ask for help? Because if I ask for help, then someone might think that I'm not, you know, I'm an imposter because I must not know what I'm doing. And that's not the case at all. Now, you do have to say, who am I going to ask for help? Who is the person that I'm going to ask for help? And you know where you find these people is you find them in your inner circle. You find them from trusted resources and say, I'm struggling in this area and I need help. I need someone who can really help me work through this, and start getting recommendations, start doing research, and really have the courage to ask and know that it doesn't take anything away from whatever mastery that you've already learned, because there's always something more to learn. You don't get to the place and go, whew, I'm done now. You're like, okay, you get to one place and then it's like, oh, so that's the next mountain to climb. That's the next hill to face. That's the next challenge. You know, we just, you know, you may get a break in between there. You may have a nice, you know, plateau, a little meadow to go through. But, you know, after that is just the next, you know, canyon to cross, the next mountain to climb, and some of these things we put on ourselves. Right? We want that next challenge. We want that next thing. But then when we hit the wall, we're like, what happened here? Yeah. I'm like, well, if you were fine and you just stayed over there, you would never hit it. But as long as you want to keep going, you want to keep growing, you want to do something new, you know, we don't know what's going to come, but we know something's coming.
It's so true. It's so true. Oftentimes my husband accuses me of that. He's like, you always want another adventure. Well, there you go, you know? It's true. So I would love for you to share about how people can work with you, you know, if they're a VA or if they're a business person who's looking for an assistant, how can they work with you and learn more about what you do?
Sure. Well, you can certainly go to associationofvas.com or thepva.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. Certainly email me, Melissa@associationofvas or Melissa@thepva.com. And I'd be happy to share all the resources I have with you. I have books on Amazon, whether you want to become a successful virtual assistant or hire the right virtual assistant. I have books for you as well. And for me, it's really just about providing as much education as possible, giving you everything that you need. And then you can decide, you know, if you still need to contact me at all. trust me, I put everything out there. With my book comes a workbook. With the Hire the Right Virtual Assistant comes a complete hiring workbook. Everything in my head, I share. My goal is really for everyone to have the assistance that they need. If you want an assistant, 100%, I want you to have an assistant. And if you want to become a successful virtual assistant, I want you to have everything you need. I hold nothing back.
I love that, because both sides are, really can benefit from that.
Absolutely. I love the idea is always to create that win-win. And I always tell my clients, I don't work with losers. So if it's not a win-win situation and someone's losing, then I'm not okay with that. Everyone has to win, because I only work with winners. I don't work with losers.
Yes. I love that. Everybody's going to win.
That's
and
right.
If not, why do it?
That's right.
I want to leave everyone with this quote that you had sent me. I love it because it's true. I mean, either you're helping someone to practice being resilient, or someone is helping you practice being resilient. And it goes back to what you said. We don't do this alone.
Mm-hmm.
We're hardwired to be together, to be in community, and to support each other. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience today?
I would just like to share that everyone is stronger than what they know. You, both mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And the scary part is that you have to go out and you have to test it. You have to test your strength. And that it's hard. It's hard, but you can do it. I'm 100% confident that you can do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I suffered from panic attacks for 15 years. I was afraid to fly most of my life. And when I started tackling one fear after the next, which was just going to a writing meetup, all of a sudden, everything started going away. Now, I don't have panic attacks anymore. I don't have anxiety attacks anymore. I got over my fear of flying. Now I've been to 30 countries. It's
amazing.
One thing, it's the cliche to peel back the onion. You don't have to start off by putting your whole self out there, but you have to do something. You have to do something, and find your people who want to help you do something. And you can absolutely do this.
I love it. It's true. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and for all of those on replay. Be sure to pick up your free pass to Networking Influencers and my free guide, Jumpstart Your Book. Those links are in the description. Thank you so much, Melissa, for joining me today, for sharing your story, and for coming through the other side of huge challenges and being able to support others.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Until next time, everyone, big hugs from Mexico. I'll talk to you soon.